But if you look at LeBron, look at the guys that he idolized. What did they have? Jordan, rings. Magic, rings. Bird, rings. So those are three guys that we know he looked up to. What do all those guys have in common? Championships.
That's my thing. Is he trying to say, am I one of the greats and that my lack of chips don't matter? LeBron feels like he's always done the right thing, said the right thing, played the right way. So
he never does.
I don't understand why everybody is not on the same accord when it comes to what I've done.
Nobody expected this bombshell, not from Shannon Sharpe. After years of riding hard for LeBron James on national TV, there he was, cool as ice, but crystal clear, pushing back on something LeBron said. And this wasn't just any hot take. This might be the most controversial stance of Shannon's entire career. A direct hit against everything he supported for decades. We're talking about a move that goes against everything LeBron has built and chased over 22 long seasons. Because when LeBron asked, why do rings matter so much? Shannon didn't step in to protect him. He didn't twist the words. He didn't even brush it off. He straight up questioned it. That one moment cracked the NBA world like glass. Not just for what was said, but because it blew up a long-standing alliance everyone thought was rock solid.
Put EST on it. You got to have championships. Now, I'm not saying you can't be great because Charles Barkley, I'm old enough, you and I are old enough, because we remember a lot of these cats. I remember Charles Barkley. I remember Karl Malone. I remember Patrick Ewing. I remember. Okay, now LeBron, did you feel this way before you had championships or after you got them? And I agree with everything he's saying.
But here's the thing. To understand why Shannon's clapback hits so deep and what it says about where LeBron's head is at now, we have to rewind. Because LeBron's relationship with championship rings, it's always been messy. And now, it feels like he just went against everything he's ever stood for. Real quick, we pour serious hours into digging up NBA truths the mainstream media avoids. If you love raw breakdowns like this, hitting subscribe is the fastest way to make sure you never miss what they don't want you to hear. Back to it. Here's what actually went down. On a recent episode of Mind the Game, the podcast LeBron co-hosts with Steve Nash, LeBron dropped a line that set sports talk shows into a frenzy. When the topic of ring culture came up, LeBron said, I don't know why it's discussed so much in our sport. It's weird. He openly questioned why championship rings are treated as the ultimate proof of greatness, and why legends like Allen Iverson, Charles Barkley, and Steve Nash get pushed out of GOAT talks just because they never won titles. On the surface, maybe that sounds reasonable. After all, basketball is more than just jewelry, right? But coming from LeBron James, a man who built his legacy brick by brick around winning, it didn't land like a thoughtful opinion. It felt like a desperate pivot. And that's where Shannon Sharpe stepped in. Because what he said next wasn't loud, wasn't fake. It was raw truth, and it left a mark. Shannon's pushback came on Nightcap. This is the same Shannon who once swore LeBron was the GOAT without question. But this time, he didn't defend him. He softly but firmly called him out. I get what LeBron's trying to say, but when you're having a GOAT conversation, when you have to add est, championships matter. That's the bottom line. Yeah, you can be great without a ring, but if you want to be the greatest, rings have always been part of the deal, no exceptions. Then Shannon dropped the question that cut through the noise. Did LeBron always feel this way, or only after he already had a championship? Because if rings were weird all along, then why leave Cleveland? Why join forces in Miami? Why fight for that 2016 Cleveland redemption arc? Why team up with Anthony Davis in LA? The truth is, LeBron leaned into ring culture hard when it worked for him. But now that he's 4-6 in the finals, With no shot at catching Jordan's perfect 6-0 record, suddenly rings don't matter. That's not evolution. That's shifting the goalposts. And Shannon wasn't alone in spotting it. Rapper Bun B, sitting right next to him, didn't sugarcoat a thing. Bro, this is ridiculous. This is beneath you. He flat out called LeBron's comments insane. And it wasn't because it's wrong to value other parts of greatness. It's because LeBron himself has made every career move about chasing rings. Miami for rings, back to Cleveland for rings, LA for rings, and now the man who called himself the GOAT after his first one is suddenly telling us rings aren't what defines legacies. For Bun B and a lot of fans, that sounds like pure insecurity. Up the real question: why is LeBron even this pressed? Watch him closely and a pattern starts to pop. He says he doesn't care about GOAT debates, but his agency reportedly reaches out to media to counter negative narratives. He says he doesn't care about rings, but built multiple super teams just to get them. So what's the truth? Maybe LeBron cares way more than he lets on. Maybe too much. And that's what has people talking. Because when Jordan walked away, he didn't spend years fishing for legacy approval. But LeBron is starting to look like he can't let it go. And now, even his closest allies aren't afraid to say it out loud. When Kobe hung it up, he wasn't out here hopping on podcasts to defend his spot in the all-time rankings. But LeBron, he's still swinging for that crown, even if it means chipping away at the very system he played his whole career to master. And here's where it gets tricky: the split between LeBron's statistical legacy and his cultural legacy. On paper, LeBron's numbers are untouchable. The all-time scoring leader, top 5 in assists, top 10 in rebounds, 40,000 points, 11,000 assists, 11,000 rebounds. A triple crown of stats that might never be seen again. As Shannon himself pointed out, no guy with your numbers has even cracked the top 10. You're in the top 5. But here's the problem. Stats don't hit the soul like rings do. When we talk MJ, nobody starts with his field goal percentage. We start with 6 for 6. When we talk Kobe, we open with 5 rings. And that's LeBron's dilemma in one sentence. The man has built the most jaw-dropping resume in NBA history, but the symbol people still measure greatness by is the ring. And that's the part that might be gnawing at him. So maybe this isn't about chasing more rings anymore. Maybe it's about shifting the narrative while there's still time. But that's a dangerous game. Because when you try to rewrite the definition of greatness while you're still playing, it can look like spin. And if that spin doesn't match your own history, it looks worse. That's why Shannon's calm pushback was a bombshell. Because when your most loyal defender can't ride with you, the cracks in the foundation start showing. Shannon still wrapped LeBron in compliments, highlighting his stats, his dominance, his career achievements. But the message underneath was simple. If you want the GOAT title, rings still matter. Always have, always will. If we throw that out, then what was not 1, not 2, not 3 all about? What was the block, the shot, the bubble championship? You can't rewrite the rules mid-game. LeBron James is one of the greatest athletes the world has ever seen. That's set in stone. But when he starts downplaying rings after chasing them for nearly 2 decades, fans can't help but wonder, why now? Shannon didn't roast him, didn't embarrass him, but by calmly disagreeing, he may have done something more damaging. He broke the illusion. Because once your biggest allies stop defending your words, the narrative can shift in ways you can't control. So here's the question. Is LeBron rewriting the game's definition of greatness, or just protecting his own legacy? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you love content that digs deeper than the headlines, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next